My first introduction to martial arts or martial sports was boxing. I started boxing at the age of 8.5, 9 years old. Now I've watched how boxing has changed over the years. A lot of times individuals that are boxing trainers aren't like the old-fashioned trainers, and they think somehow some of these new methods are superior. One of the things that has been lost in the art of boxing is in the use of the arms from a scientific, physiological point of view. That is, punching with leverage. First of all, the arms themselves are not responsible for the leverage. The legs, the waist, the hips, and the body are responsible for the leverage. Now, sometimes individuals have a misnomer, and they think that the power comes from the shoulders, and so therefore they tell their people when they're using their boxing things to throw their shoulder out. You're throwing your shoulder out of perspective. The shoulder has no ability to do anything but to pronate the arm forward. If there's a torque that's to be done with the boxing, it comes from the waist and the hips. So when you throw yourself into the technique, instead of trying to throw your body off balance in its vertical plane by throwing a hard shoulder, one keeps everything in perspective and turns the waist, and that's what sends the shoulder pronated forward. Now let's talk about the basic punching motion, because this is what's lost. Let's say, for example, in a basic 1-2. First I'll do it towards the camera, then I'll turn slightly to the side so you can see what I'm talking about. This very subtle but simple nuance is responsible for the difference of how you deliver power in a boxing punch. Most individuals punch that train and teach boxing these days punch straight away. That is, they put the boxing guard up, that's very nice, but then they push directly away from their shoulder, like this. And to overcompensate for it, they throw their bodies off balance, and they try to throw their shoulders harder into the punch. That's not the way you achieve leverage. The shoulder wasn't designed to do that. So now let's look at a difference, a very subtle difference, that'll bring power to your boxing punch. I'll turn my body slightly to the side. Let's say this is my right hand. If this is my target, if I throw a punch directly forward like this, I have no leverage in the technique. Here's a comparison so you can see what I'm talking about. If I had a ball in my hand from this position and I shot it directly out from my shoulder like this, what kind of power or momentum would the ball have? You're right, next to none. But they're just little subtle things you can do with the body. Now, a proper straight boxing punch doesn't shoot directly from the shoulder, but rather the shoulder lifts slightly, the punch drops like a hammer, like this, and then the shoulder is added to it. That's the difference between having a punch that does this and a punch that does this. Understand? So, the two linear punches in boxing, the jab and the cross, from the arm's position, not speaking of how the legs and the waist is brought into it, it drops like a hammer and then shoots forward. It drops like a hammer and then shoots forward. When it's on the line with the shoulder, here, the fist, that's when now you add the shoulder to the punch, and not before that. And definitely not shooting it straight away from the shoulder. You won't get any power that way. If I had a ball in my hand this way, I would at least get more momentum if I had a ball in my hand if I dropped the hammer and then shot the shoulder, as opposed to holding the ball in my hand and pushing it directly away. So jabs and crosses are taken care of that way. The hooking punch, all kinds of variations on this. Individuals think that they can wing a punch from here or make a momentum punch from here. There are many variations on a hook, don't get me wrong, but the basic boxing hook with leverage does this. First of all, it creates what's called the hooking position. That is, the arm is brought here. That means the shoulder is already engaged, the muscles of the forearm are already engaged. Now, instead of trying to push away from the shoulder like this, you bring it to the proper hooking position, then you turn your waist into the blow, like this. It will land with power, and it'll land with good speed. This is actually moving away from the body's weight, and so therefore, you can't get any power on that technique. That's why people aren't getting knocked out. Finally, we have the uppercut, and there's all kinds of variations for it, but let's go to just a basic uppercut. In your basic uppercut, individuals try to do this. They're throwing the shoulder away from the body. It disconnects from the body, and it doesn't have striking power. An uppercut, when it's thrown, is merely a turn of the fist, and then one stretches the arm. Now, the comparison I have to that is if I was doing a bicep curl, would I first do this and throw it away from the body? No, no capacity to do work. If I was doing a bicep curl, I would bring the arm in position and I would curl it so it has capacity. Well, with just a slight pronation, that capacity with the curl now becomes the uppercut. So stretch it upwards this way. Don't try to push it from the shoulder. It doesn't work well that way. If you need extra body weight, then that's provided by the body and the legs, not the arms. To conclude, the arms deliver the power, but the power is created by the legs, the hips, the waist, and the body. Just a tip from me to you.